Guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we are talking about cruise ports where we won't get off the ship. And you know, we've been on hundreds of cruises over the years, and we've just kind of learned as we've gone along. You know, the first time you go to a port, you get off because, okay, I've never been to this port before, right? So you get off the first time, but then you learn, okay, oh, this is definitely a cruise port. I want to get back off again. Or, ooh, I don't think I want to go to that port again. There was nothing to do, or whatever. There's a variety of reasons. Could be safety issues, you know, scam issues, all kinds of different things. So we're going to go over this list, and you're welcome to add to it down below in the comment section as well, of some cruise ports that where you won't get off the ship anymore, so that we kind of have a running list here of what what we're not going to get off for.
Yeah, in the first place that we decided we're not going to get off the ship, it felt kind of bad, like we're wasting our money, we're going here but we're not getting off. And then we realized, you know, you could spend time on the ship and everything's empty. You can go to the thermal suite, you can get, you know, in line to get the food easier. So there's some fun to be on the ship. The pools aren't empty, hot tubs are not crowded either. So the first port that we decided to do this was Nassau, the Bahamas. And I think it was really because we'd been there 5 times in 1 year. And it seemed like every cruise we were on went to Nassau, and we're like, we don't need to do this again because it's not the greatest port. There's not a ton to do, and you just go there so many times.
Yeah, it just feels like when you get off the ship, of course they have like the little, you know, stuff where you haven't gotten out into the actual port yet, where you have to actually pass the security and get into the port. So there's like a little shopping area and all that kind of stuff on the port side, on the ship side. But then when you get into the city, it feels like it's almost like, you know, Disneyland version of Nassau, Bahamas. But once you get beyond that, there's really not that much to do.
Yeah.
And that's really where the rub comes in.
So if we were going to do a ship shore excursion, that may be a different story, but we've done everything there is to do there, and we're just not that excited about it. So that's the first one.
Yeah, and I have noticed also that at that one in particular, when we stay on the ship, a lot of people are starting to stay on the ship on that one too. People that have been on a lot of cruises before and have been there before many times, and they just have made that same decision too. So it's actually not just us. A lot of people are starting to pick up on these.
Second place that we don't get off the ship anymore is all of the Jamaica ports. Any Jamaica port we won't get off, because unless you're doing something with the ship, which we feel is generally pretty overpriced, we don't want to pay $200 for a city tour in Jamaica or to go to a waterfall, then it's just not that great, and it's getting a little bit more dangerous to get off the ship in Jamaica and just go do a DIY tour, which is what we prefer to do. So it really isn't worth it for us to get off in Jamaica.
Yeah, it's just really hard, because even if when we used to do the DIYs back in the day, in Jamaica, they were a little bit more trustworthy when, you know, you were trying to book trips with excursions with companies in Jamaica. But now it's so tough with so many different scams and things like that happening, that it's becoming a real problem to know, okay, is this person even going to show up and be at the port when I get there? You're hearing more and more problems with people with that. And, you know, like you said, if you're not doing an excursion with the ship, you're kind of, you know, fending for yourself, and it can be tough in these Jamaican ports, unfortunately.
Next one where we no longer get off the ship is Ensenada, Mexico, and we've gotten off the ship there several times. We didn't have any problem with crime or anything. We got off, we walked all the way into town. The thing is, there's just really one big main street where the tourists walk to, and you kind of do a little bit of shopping and maybe eat some food, but it's kind of the same. It's just the same, and you just don't want to do that every single time you go to Ensenada. So we don't really get off the ship there anymore.
Yeah, it's just every single shop is the same over and over. It's kind of like the situation in Nassau in the Bahamas. The shops all sell the same kind of thing, so every other shop is either, you know, clothes or your leather sandals or, you know, your jerseys and ponchos and blankets. Every shop is selling basically the exact same thing. There's just like 100 of them, and you just decide which one you want to buy stuff at. The restaurants, the prices are all pretty inflated for the restaurants in these areas, especially at the Ensenada port, which is really more of a commercial type port. It's not really truly a cruise port. It has improved over the years, but it's still not really like a cruise port. And there just isn't that much to do, much at all really to do, other than just that little area once you get off the ship.
Yeah, I think that's one of the bigger issues we've seen with shopping on these cruises and the cruise ports is that these are not local run businesses. These are just big businesses that are made to look like locals are running them, but they're not local authentic things. They're just kind of mass produced things, and that's a little disappointing. It doesn't feel like you're really getting into the heart of the culture, because they've changed the culture where the cruise ships go to match what they can do to make a profit there. So.
Yeah, to kind of match what they can make money off of, and it really does more feel like you're going to like Epcot, Mexico, Epcot, rather than to actually going to Mexico.
Next one is going to be Belize, and we don't get off here because we are not a fan of tenders, and also not the safest if you leave the port area by yourself.
Yeah, the tender ports are definitely not our favorites. We'll say that right out front. There's several reasons why we don't like tender ports. One, it's just, I do have trouble with motion sickness, so that is one of the things. Even though we do tender ports, it's not that we don't at all. They're just not our favorite. And then, to me, if I'm going to get on a tender to go to the port, I want it to be worth it, be worth being nauseous for however long it takes to get from the ship to the shore. But if I'm taking a tender from the ship to the shore only to go shopping in a little, secluded area, secure area, doesn't really make sense to me. It's basically like shopping on the ship, in all honesty. And you're not paying the prices of local stuff either. So it's like, and like I said, again, the whole place is basically run by a company, and they just have locals who are selling there, but it's not their stuff, the locals. They just work at the individual little stations.
Yeah, we also don't like having to wake up super early to get a ticket to go on the tender. We never actually get the tickets, so we end up being the last people off. And then, then you gotta wait to get back. It's just a whole hassle. And if the port was gonna be amazing and someplace we've never been, we might do it. But this does not warrant getting off. So moving on, the next one's going to be Egypt, and we went there, we got off, didn't really enjoy it.
Yeah, well, a couple of things. First thing is if you want to go anywhere, which there's actually not a ton to do right there, this is a super commercial port. This is not really a port for cruise ships.
And this was Safaga, Egypt.
Safaga, Egypt, yes. It's not really a port for cruise ships. It's very commercial. And you're so far away, you have to take the little buggies in to get to to walk out from the port. And then when you do, you're greeted with, tons of drivers, like you feel like you're at an auction, that they're all trying to offer you their services for X amount of dollars. And then even if you walk past them and you walk into town, there isn't anything to do there, and it just doesn't feel very inviting really at all.
Yeah, we got on the main road, we were trying to walk into town, and at least 8 cars in a row stopped to ask us if we wanted a ride. And it was just like a taxi, or to take us on a tour, and we were like, no, we're just walking. No, we're just walking. No, we're just walking. And it just became very much of a port where you do get hassled a lot, because it's obvious you're not from there, and people were just trying to, I get it, they're trying to make money, but you do kind of want to, you don't have that feeling of you can just kind of be left alone and explore and wander around. And even if you did, there really isn't that much to see anyway.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. So that's definitely one that we would stay on the ship for next time.
Next up is going to be Progreso in Mexico, and it kind of falls in line with some of the other Mexico ports that we don't get off on. Yeah,
the issue here is that this is the port that's closest to Merida, which is a nice place to visit. It's probably 45 minutes to an hour car ride away. We've been to Merida. We really enjoyed our visit there. We actually stayed there for like a month. And Progresso, the beaches there are really not spectacular. They're actually not even average, to be honest. And the Malecón is really more of just like, again, an artificial shopping area of, things that are Mexican looking stuff that's not really authentic stuff, and the pricing is really kind of crazy. Again, the restaurants, same thing. They, overcharge by quite a lot. And there's really not much to do outside of that unless you're going to try to take a car into Merida, then that would be worth it. Or you can go to some Mayan ruins nearby, which is also nice. But I would save that and do it someplace else.
Yeah, and if you're going to do a ship tour, that's fine if you see one you like. We just don't like to do a lot of ship tours in the Caribbean because we feel like most of the time if there's something good to do, we can do it ourselves. The next one's going to be kind of in line with that, Costa Maya, Mexico.
Yeah, and in Costa Maya, this one is crazy because they have basically just, like it almost is kind of like a private island type feel thing, because they've built a little area where you get off the ship and then you walk in and you're basically in like a little resort area that's been built for the cruise company. Each one basically has their own, and they've got, a big pool with a lazy river, and they have, local dancers come in and perform, and they have, party vibes and restaurants and all that kind of stuff. But it's all super, super, super fake. It really is just like you're still on the ship.
Yeah, if you're just going to want to go swimming, you can do that on the ship, so not a big deal. And then another one here is Roatan, Honduras. We have gotten off there before. We did enjoy it, but it was not one that we'd probably do again.
Yeah, we were warned actually by the ship. They told people actually in the little flyer that they give you the night before. They told people not to just walk into town. There is some, there are some serious safety issues in Honduras, so they recommended only do excursions from the ship or stay in the port area. Again, it's one of those port areas that's designed essentially, I think, by the cruise companies, and a company comes in and sets it up, makes it look like a market. Again, the Epcot feel to it type thing, where they just set it all up, make it look authentic, but it obviously is not. Bring in the locals to help run it and to run the different stalls, but there's absolutely nothing really authentic about it. So it's challenging to, get off at a port like this and not really be able to have the local experience at all.
Yeah, it's a little bit sad that that's kind of what it's come to, but that is what it's come to. So that's just what has to be done. So these are the places we've decided we're no longer getting off. I know there's probably some that we didn't mention that you won't get off at. We'd love to know what those are in the comments.
Yeah, so guys, hopefully this was helpful to you. Add those in the comments for us, and we'll see you guys next time.